So it's been a little while, but I'm back with another How I Beat on Rollercoaster Tycoon Classic, and I'm up to Mel's World, which has some well-designed rides already in place and needs you to get to 1,200 guests by the end of Year 3. But with over 300 guests already in the park, you only need to add around 900 to beat the scenario. First up, I repaid the £5,000 initial loan, just to avoid interest fees while I get to grips with the park. There is plenty of space to build here, but before I do that, I'll take a look at optimising what we already have. Frightmare is the standout ride. It's an inverted roller coaster with over 7 excitement, although it's not far off 10 intensity. As this is a pay-per-ride scenario, I want to limit downtime for the big ticket rides, so I'll set maintenance inspections to every 10 minutes, add some music and ensure we are maximising the throughput. The ticket price begins at £5 but can definitely be higher with those stats. We are missing out on additional revenue through an on-ride photo section, so I'll add one in and then let's test out the ride. I did consider making some modifications to reduce intensity, but in the end decided not to, at least for now, as I want to see how the guests react. Is this a park where guests love a high intensity? Given the high nausea rating, we definitely need a handyman patrolling the exit area, and while I'm in this part of the park, I'll just check on that drink stand to make sure we aren't giving away our cans of cola too cheaply. From there, it's across to the park's other pre-built roller coaster, a bobsleigh coaster named Quiver. As I adjust the safety checks here, I realise we'll need more than one mechanic, and while I didn't do this, it might be a good idea to set patrol areas given the walking distance between the initial two coasters. Stats wise, Quiver is more palatable than Frightmare, with around 6 for intensity and excitement, and just under 5 on nausea. Again, I'll adjust the price and make sure we are maximising throughput, but otherwise I'm happy, and again we can look at getting a handyman for this area. With the two big coasters in check, I can take a look at the static rides we have and make sure we are maximising profit and throughput here too. We have Blast Off, a launched freefall for which I'll reduce the launch speed just to try and bring that intensity closer to the excitement rating. Next to Blast Off is Hijack, a top spin which is set to beginners mode. The park also has toilets and a burger bar, but given the guests' comments, I will add a second burger bar to save guests from walking a long way to find food. Finishing off the basic setup of the park, I'll add an information kiosk near the entrance and get a full set of handymen with patrol areas covering the entire park. So far the park only has roller coasters and thrill rides, so my first new installation is a merry-go-round, and then up near Frightmare I'll add a haunted house, which at least matches the theme of the name of the nearby coaster. If you've seen my videos before, you'll probably be expecting to see a mango muncher before long, and sure enough, here is my favourite junior coaster. A cheap and popular ride with decent stats which can be earning me money quickly while I focus on some custom builds. So, with 2 gentle, 2 thrill and now 3 coasters operating in the park, I can spend some time on my first new custom coaster, which will be a looping coaster. There is plenty of space in this park, and this is a nice flat area in which to build a new coaster. Starting with a raised platform, we climb out and turn back towards the park before a curved drop takes us into a bend back under the coaster and up to a wide turn around that initial curved drop. Heading towards the park perimeter, we drop in line with the landscape to come back under the existing track and into a vertical loop. That brings us close to the burger bar as we turn and climb to head back through the loop. From there it's a quick 360, dropping under the station and up to turn into the station. So lots of turning and interlocking track in this one. Let's try the test ride. After building the entrance and exit paths, I can see the stats have come back slightly more intense than expected, but ready to open to guests nonetheless. Given the intensity of that ride, let's add something at the other end of the scale, a Ferris wheel. And then it's back to building coasters, and what I want here is a really big classic wooden coaster, something that sweeps around the back of the park. So I'll build it in the back corner close to Frightmare, allowing the new coaster to sweep along the back perimeter of the park. That means climbing from the station to that back perimeter before continuing the climb along the back of the park. In true Big Dipper style, we'll head straight into a big drop before climbing immediately back up, turning in the process. As we hit the top of this hill, we'll drop down in a turn, so we're now heading back towards the station. I'll use a combination of helixes and curved slopes to weave the coaster around itself, sending passengers under the supports. We head back through the centre of this section of the coaster and then under the supports of that initial chain lift hill. Using the natural rise of the land, we then climb back to the station level before a short turn to home. Let's test it out. So earlier I said I wanted a large coaster sweeping the back of the park, but I'm not sure this quite cuts it. Don't get me wrong, it will be an effective coaster and I could open it like this. Extending it won't earn me any more guests, but we have 2 more years to go and only 500 more guests to attract, so I know I can be more creative. Therefore, I'm adding an additional end section which sees the ride helix back over the station and drop down between the land and under what will become the entrance and exit paths. A wider turn around the base of the station takes us to the edge of the park, and it's an extra helix into the station. So here's another test ride. And with those stats, I'm really happy, although this is the 3rd coaster in the park with very high intensity, so I'll need to rein it in from here. But for now, I'll open this ride with a £7 fee. I'll need to connect this coaster to the main part of the park, and along that path, I'll add a thrill ride, the pirate ship, and a gentle ride, the spiral slide. We don't have any water rides yet, so on the land between Frightmare and the wooden coaster, let's build a log flume. I'll take you through the build stage super quickly, but as you can see we have one large drop and several smaller ones which should generate a good excitement rating. And sure enough, 5.25, which is not bad for a log flume. Given we have several high intensity coasters, I want to add another smaller scale one, a mini coaster, which I will fit into a fairly small space on the hill in front of the park entrance. And as the build stage was not my favourite, let's jump to the test ride. So a fairly small, basic ride with medium excitement, but it's cheap and fits into a fairly tight space. But honestly, this is not my best build. After that, I added a chairlift to transport guests from the park entrance to where the wooden coaster sits. And as I enter the final year, a go-kart will fit nicely close to the bobsleigh coaster quiver. I'll build a longer track with full 21 cars available and a long enough track to make a 1-lap ride enjoyable, with a couple of ups and downs and plenty of turns. And on the other side of Quiver, I'll fit some river rapids into a gap where I just built a maze too. The river rapids hits 5 excitement and was actually the last ride I built in this park. By October, I am comfortably above the scenario target and I've completed the goal with a company value of almost £500,000. But before I leave you, I want to show you 2 other coasters I built in this park. I built both of these in the early stages of year 3, but somehow failed to record that process. First off, there is a vertical drop coaster behind the go-karts. And then on the far right of the park, there was a Corkscrew Coaster. Let's ride them both, starting with the vertical drop, and I'll share their stats on the right side of the screen.